Hey, this podcast holds nothing sacred. This is Life, Tech, and Sundry. And what is Sundry? It's our experiences put in a melting pot to the internet. So join us on this wild ride called the LTS Podcast. Follow us at LT Sundry on Twitter, LTS.pod on Instagram, Life, Tech, and Sundry on YouTube, and all your favorite podcast distribution services. Stay frosty.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this installment of LTS Out of Office. So, before I do anything, let's start this episode. The second week of May 2026 has been an absolute masterclass in why the truth is usually found somewhere halfway or in between. Two people yelling at each other in a courtroom or a comment section. I'm Marcos Lopez and welcome to this special Out of Office solo session of Life, Tech, and Sundry. I'm so glad you could slide out of the daily hustle to hang out with me, yours truly, today. I wanted to pull up a couple of notes and, maybe a chair here from the main desk, maybe even pour something cold. Gotta stay hydrated, right? And just unpack these shifts together because I know you appreciate the strategic hustle. But if you're like me, you're probably getting a little tired of the matrix we live in. Let's break down what's actually happening right now. Kicking it off with the chaotic good Fugazi. Fugazi? I think it's Fugazi. The manufactured Virality. I've been tracking this digital marketing agency called Chaotic Good, and they are officially at the center of May's biggest industry debate after their campaign for the band Geese completely exposed how organic discovery, if you will, might just be a total Fugazi. Again with that word. What does it mean? Which, since we're sitting here talking, you already know is just a great slang word for a complete sham, a certified fake, and a well-funded myth. The trend simulation engine, instead of crossing their fingers and hoping a track leads, these guys over here weaponized UGC campaigns, essentially deploying hundreds of bespoke social accounts and engineered comments. And by bespoke, I just mean completely custom made and tailored from scratch for this exact trap, all to simulate a fake grassroots hype machine, just to trick the algorithms. They weaponize it. Of course, if companies are doing it, best believe they got it from somewhere else. Those conspiracy people starting to look not so crazy, right? The budget-friendly psyop. What really keeps me up at night, since I found out about this, isn't the manipulation itself. It's how cheap it was. For a relatively small investment, they proved you can literally buy a cultural movement. No, a cultural moment, bypassing traditional gatekeepers entirely. The dead internet validation. If you've ever felt like you're talking to bots online, trust me, I have. Let me know in the comments if you have. You're not crazy. You're valid. Quote, dead internet, end quote. Theorists are having a collective panic attack right this instant, pointing to the Geese situation as proof that our digital town squares are just rigid carnival games. You think that this is a game? Apparently there's some companies that do, or government agencies that do. Damn, just damn. The pushback and the scrub. Guess what? Once they got caught red-handed, by the way, by Substackers, those independent deep dive newsletter journalists who traded traditional newsrooms for direct to inbox truth-telling, maybe an episode about them in the future, and Wired, the company by the way, Wired, this month, Chaotic Good started furiously scrubbing their site, claiming they just help, quote, grassroots connections. The Truman Show dread. Honestly, it leaves us wondering if any underground hit we discover is even real anymore. I know I do. The lines between genuine human passion and algorithmic puppetry are totally gone, and it makes our streaming habits feel less like discovery and more like a psychological experiment, and people are raking in the cash. Just sucks that I'm not doing it, but you, dear listener. When the very reality we consume online can be manufactured from scratch like that with the snap of a finger, it makes you wonder, how do we even begin to protect the human ideas that actually matter? Look at your own phone for a second. If you've ever scrolled past a viral trend or felt that sudden creeping doubt that it's all just smoke and mirrors, tell me right now across the table. Leave a comment. When did you first realize the digital landscape was slipping away from us? Don't hold back. Just give it to me straight. Because if we move past this online sleight of hand used to trick a simple algorithm, we have to face an even higher stakes paranoia. This geopolitical battle currently trying to lock down the entire continent's research sector. Talking about Europe again. The hashtag fortress science standoff. It's always one thing or another. The ancient logic of secrecy. There I was reading up about the European Union, EU for short, and Germany's accelerating, quote, fortress science, end quote, agenda this week, and it cracks me up specifically how much it borrows from old school military paranoia. Remember that one with the British when they built armored vehicles in World War I and called them just regular tanks, that the name just stuck with them just to trick spies into thinking they were water carriers? Weapon grade research. Security hogs are aggressively arguing right now that modern scientific research is fundamentally a weapon, and just like the World War II VT fuse, it needs to be locked in black box so rival nations can't reverse engineer our future. An example here that comes to mind is the F-22 versus the F-35 dilemma. We're watching a classic military tech divide play out in universities. The, quote, fortress, end quote, approach mirrors the F-22 Raptor, a jet so advanced that the US government legally banned it from export to keep its secrets vaulted for the rest of the world, just exclusively for the United States. Eagle sound. The cost of global projects. On the flip side, you have the F-35 approach, a collaborative global masterpiece, I do say. That sounds great on paper, but ultimately fell prey to leaked code and shared vulnerabilities, which is exactly what the European Union regulators are terrified of today. The academic uprising. I've been seeing scientists on X, formerly known as Twitter, fighting back hard under the, quote, hashtag fortress science, end quote, this week, and I get their frustration. They're arguing that blacklisting specific regions and cutting off global collaboration isn't protecting innovation, it's lobotomizing it. Very drastic, I do say. The paradox of the silo. Here is my take on the tragedy of this standoff. You absolutely cannot solve global climate collapse inside a nationalized silo. But at the same time, you can't afford to just hand the blueprints of the next era to your biggest geopolitical rivals. It forces us to lean in and ask a deeply uncomfortable question. Can we as a species actually solve our biggest global crisis if we are too terrified of each other to share the answers? Seriously, think about it while we're sitting here. If you've spent any time weighing where the line between national security and intellectual isolation should sit, tell me your perspective. I genuinely want to hear how you balance it in your mind, because while governments are losing sleep trying to lock down physical hardware and research papers, the tech world's biggest fight, currently entering its final dramatic acts in the Oakland courtroom, is over who owns the very mind of the machine. The trial of the decade. Musk Altman. The purest, petty, noble crusade. Closing arguments are finally kicking off this May in that Oakland courthouse, and Elon Musk is radiating pure quote, "I liked them before they were cool," end quote energy, claiming his early pittance of $44 million nonprofit donation was basically hijacked by a Microsoft corporate takeover. The stolen charity accusations watching Musk's legal team has been wild. They are doubling down this narrative that Sam Altman and Greg Brockman effectively, quote, stole a charity, end quote. And trust me, when hasn't that happened before, man? It's just the more things change, the more things stay the same. And between an open source mission just to build a closed loop wealth machine, the practical king's reality check. But let's look at Altman's defense, because it's rooted in a very brutal pragmatism. You simply do not reach artificial general intelligence on good vibes and a meager 501c3 charity budget. Mind you, this means a non-for-profit, if for the people that don't know. This is the code for when you launch a non-for-profit. I think sometimes you have to do that for religions. I don't know. Fact check me on that on the comments if you want. The billion-dollar evolution. Altman's camp is essentially arguing that they didn't betray the mission. They evolved it to survive. Building the most complex tech in human history requires hundreds of billions in compute, and only a startup structure can scale that fast. The credibility crossfire. The whole courtroom drama has devolved into petty personal attacks. Musk's lawyers are desperately trying to paint Altman as dishonest, while Altman's team is just pointing out that Musk is a jealous rival who failed to take over the company himself back in 2018. The final deadlock at its core. This trial proves that Musk is right that the soul of the project was sold, but Altman is right that the soul didn't have enough GPUs to matter. Anyways, it's the ultimate collision of, quote, principles versus, quote, power, end quote. And now we wait for a jury to decide the future of AI. Mind you, Oakland, a jury of your peers. What peers are you gonna get for this? Tell me in the comments. What do you think as I stare into you? Come on, you probably know? Nah, I know I don't. But it's gonna be interesting. Between manufacturer virality, nationalized science, and billionaire courtroom brawls. Wrapping up this May, the world is perfectly balanced in its total absurdity. I don't know about you, but looking it all with you today, it really feels like a glitch in the matrix. Which of these, quote, both sides of the aisle scenarios hits closest to home for you? I'm really glad we got to do this solo deep dive, mano a mano if you will, today. Before we head back out into the wild, please remember to follow and support yours truly, Marcos Lopez, and the podcast via the links. If you're feeling generous, you can buy me a coffee or just share this episode with anyone you know who loves talking about this kind of stuff. Every bit helps keep this hustle alive, independent, and strictly between us. Safe travels out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay frosty.